let's be real. Artists have all kinds of problems. Actually, artists have all the problems. Maybe today more than ever. But this video here in particular has been floating around on my For You page for quite some time, and I'm actually super curious to see what it's about. Spoiler alert, I personally believe that there are actually two major problems that artists are facing today. But let's check out the video first, and then I'm gonna tell you what I believe are the two main problems that every artist faces today. Let's jump right in.
But while doing the artwork, it's pretty much non-stop doubt. Moments of like, oh, great. By the way, that is very fleeting and is there for a moment and maybe not there the next day. I've drawn things that I was really happy when I finished them, and I come back the next day and think, that is dog shit. What were you thinking? And then I've had the opposite, where I was doing something that I hated non-stop the whole time I was drawing it. And then I saw it a year later and thought, oh, that's actually all right.
Greg is known for doing a bunch of the concept design on District 9, Avatar, and King Kong. I sat down with him and recorded him doing a page for an upcoming graphic novel he's written and illustrated, and talked to him about his process on creativity.
When I talk to people about artwork and making comics or illustrations, there's normally like a huge amount of self-doubt and a huge amount of like second guessing when it comes to image making. Do you have any thoughts on that, or like how do you just start, you know?
That's almost the number one problem. When you're trying to draw, you're trying to fall into that place where you stop second guessing, the flow state. And that's almost the point of it in a way.
Super interesting, because I think this artist, imposter syndrome, insecurity is actually a big problem for a lot of artists. By the way, if you've never heard of what he's talking about here, the flow state, drawing and painting and sculpting, or really doing anything creatively, can almost be like meditation, where you lose the sense of time, the sense of yourself. You forget everything around you, and you just are. You just do stuff. And the flow state is very comparable and similar to actual meditation, in my experience. If you've never heard of it before, that is what he's referring to here.
Especially if you're trying to make something structured. This is a graphic novel, of course, these are comic pages, and they're trying to tell a story. So I've got 100 things in my head, I've got what I've written down. I need to try and be faithful to the story. I need to try and include all these elements. I'm trying to be a cameraman and come at from the right angle and all this sort of stuff. But at the same time, I'm trying to get out of my own way and think about none of that, just be in the drawing. Yeah. And those two things are in opposition. They're fighting each other. One's trying to wake you up and one's trying to put you into a sleep. The part of it is just drawing. You just start, and even if it's not working, you just keep on doing it, and then eventually, before you even know it, hopefully you've fallen into that state. And the other way is alcohol.
And when it comes to drugs and alcohol, just say no.
I was telling you the other day that drinking a beer or two, that just like gets rid of inhibitions. Yeah. I don't recommend it all the time. Maybe it doesn't work for many people. Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend it either. I know it works for some, doesn't work for me at all. The only thing that works is coffee.
You shouldn't let any preparation get in the way of art, because what's the risk? There's no risk. The only risk is maybe feeling shame at someone else looking at it, and I've definitely been through that. I've made whole comic books before when I was young, when I didn't show anyone, or maybe a very few friends. Yeah. I totally get it, but that's the only real risk, and that's a silly risk, right? It's like, it's not real. Yeah. So there's nothing really at stake. So you should just do it. You shouldn't. I think if you want to make a piece of art, no matter what it is, games, movies, drawings, music, you just start making it, and just be accepting the fact that it'll be limited in its own by who you are at that time.
I love everything that he said so far. You can tell that he is super passionate and also very reflective, and you can tell from what he says. I love the way he articulates his thoughts and visualizes all these problems and artist dilemmas. But in a way, what he talks about is this whole part where you constantly overthink, you second guess. Typical imposter syndrome, I guess, is what you would call it, which is a problem that many artists have, but it's not really a problem, in my opinion. It's just something that you overcome with enough time and experience, and also once you separate yourself from what you do. But maybe he'll get a bit more into what he means, what his point is. So
now with Instagram, it's very easy to compare yourself to how good or famous everyone is, or at least seems to be. And
I still get that. I've been doing this forever, and I still look on Instagram and go, holy shit, how did they do that? That's not possible.
But we also know comparison is the thief of joy. So as long as you remind yourself of that, you should be fine.
I'm trying to trust my intuition. It's not even trusting your intuition. It's written it, and when I've drawn it, I feel that it's true, or it's as true as I can make it. And so I'm not trying to, it's up to the audience after that. So I know when I've finished it, me and the universe are whole. Like, you know, we're good. Like, I've done my best. Yeah. And then it's.
I can totally understand where he's coming from. And I think many artists do. I've heard this from friends, from peers. A lot of artists always say very similar things. I completely disagree, but I totally respect it. And I can also see where these artists are coming from. I think making it too much about yourself does often take away from the art more than it adds to it. Which is also maybe not entirely true. It really depends on what kind of art, what it's for. I would say in general, which is also going to be one of the things that I want to talk about, making it too much about yourself is maybe not the best idea.
The way it tends to work, right, when there's money involved, especially large chunks of money to make a film or a game or something like that, or any piece of art that just takes a lot of effort and multiple people and investment. The people who aren't really making it, who are putting in the money, justifiably want to know that it will make their money back, and so they want to go like, what worked before, right? And if you follow that, I don't have anything. That's a good way to make certain types of things. It's just not a great way to make anything that's
brand new
and exciting. Yeah. And it's not even a good way to make something that's true. It's just a way of repeating what worked in the past. And those are things that were true in the past, but there's a diminishing returns aspect to that, right? If you make something that was true in the past, I mean, true in the sense that it emotionally resonated with people, you're just making an echo of that. And you can't really make a stronger echo than the thing you're copying. Yeah. Right? It's just going to be an echo. And so the people that make really interesting things, Mad Max or Star Wars or you know, Lord of the Rings, those are things that the artist was not making a literal echo. They might have been echoing really.
I don't think it's actually true. I think these things are exactly echoes of what has worked in the past. Star Wars, Mad Max, Indiana Jones. These are stories and archetypes that resonate with humans for quite literally centuries. The reason why they work is not despite that, but because of that. But on top of that, there is the added layer of this honest pursuit of excellence that really elevates the whole thing. I don't really agree with the analysis, but I think I understand where he's going with this.
Deep, fundamental things, but no one else saw that.
Yeah.
Right? They made something that just felt true to them.
Yeah, talk to people where it's like they're just trying to talk with the muse or something, and it's almost accidental, or they can't even explain, or they don't even feel like the person who had created that thing that had come out.
That's falling into the flow state, isn't it? And there is something that's like a music. Anything you do art-wise, it's creative. If you really like it afterwards, or if you look back at it later on and really enjoy it,
I love how the drawings
it's like
come
you
along,
didn't do it. That's kind of a crazy thing.
Yeah.
It does make you wonder where it came from.
I
It
love
does
how
feel
the
magical.
drawing is
I'm not a
coming
magical
along, by the
person.
way.
I probably talk like that a lot of the time. But I really love science. And I love engineering. You know, I'm fascinated by those kind of things. Yeah. But there is something truly magical about you're participating in art and then witnessing it again later on and going like, where did that come from? I don't think that was me.
Yeah, right.
That's weird, man. That makes you think that the universe is much more cosmic than it is. And maybe it is. I have no idea.
Well, the fact that we can have very similar experiences with art, and I'm from San Diego and you're from halfway around the world, or the other side of the planet, and we're talking about this stuff. We're like, oh, of course, the muse, of course, for any students or something listening to this, somebody that might feel like they're struggling with finding their own voice or starting a personal project or anything. Do you have any advice or thoughts on that? Or
Well, as far as starting a project goes, it's easy. You just got to do it.
Yeah.
Just stop making excuses and do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is that simple.
Yeah.
And start, even if if you don't know how, just start.
That
I would say that even for a lot of people,
100%.
some people steer more academic and they do try and think about things more. And if that works for you, that's cool. Some people might spend their whole life learning and then just do it all and do.
Yeah, some people spend their whole life planning, but planning without action doesn't lead you anywhere. You got to do something. That's really the most important thing. So I agree wholeheartedly with that
Do something later on, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think a lot of people, that's a rare thing to happen. Most people are thinking that it's really hard, right, and that they won't be good enough, and therefore they'll invent excuses in their head not to start or to put it off. Mm-hmm. And the reality is,
lots of overthinking.
Yeah, right, you won't be good. And it's not to everyone else, it's to you. You won't be good enough. Yeah. But you just have to suck that up.
Yeah, if you wait for the right moment, you're going to wait forever. The right moment will never come. There will always be a better moment. You have to do it. If there is something that you want to do, sure, you can do some planning, you can prepare yourself, but eventually you have to take the leap and you just have to go for it. And overthinking, thinking too much, and I think this is, it doesn't help, but it also doesn't really lead you anywhere.
Drawing feels like an accident or a car wreck. Yeah. The whole time I was telling you about the Evel Knievel, it feels like every time I started drawing and I've got a blank page, I do feel like I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah. Right? I feel like I might as well be starting at zero. And then I kind of have to remind myself that, no, you've done this heaps. You should be able to do it. But anyway, so I start drawing, and actually while I'm drawing, since I've been drawing probably since I was 6, as students, you start to move the pencil. It's like, this is okay. Okay, you know what you're doing. And I liken it to Evel Knievel, or someone doing a stunt jump over the Grand Canyon. As I'm doing the pencils, it's like I'm accelerating at the ramp, right? And suddenly like, oh cool, this motorbike is picking up speed. Yeah. We're going. The drawing is happening. And then at a certain point, as the drawing starts to crystallize, I've hit the ramp. And then you realize, oh fuck, does this drawing make any sense? Should I have done this? Now I'm starting to render it, right? Maybe I'm in Photoshop,
that is
starting to color it. Yeah. And all of a sudden,
interesting image.
Yeah, I'm across the canyon and I realized, you weren't going fast enough. Yeah. You definitely weren't going fast enough. And holy fuck, the front wheel just fell off. Yeah. And now you're pressing every lever, revving the engine that can't do anything.
Never thought about it that way, but it does make sense. But this is also like just the way that artists tend to overthink. This is pure overthinking. It happens. You start doing something, you start second guessing, you wonder what you should do, you don't have all the answers. And then you're afraid or you regret all of that stuff. It doesn't matter really how good you are. It doesn't matter how long you have been doing this. It'll always be part of it. The best thing is to accept it and also not to give it too much meaning when the thought comes up. It's kind of like mindfulness meditation in a way where you realize that you are having these thoughts and you are having these feelings and you accept them, and the same way they just come out of nowhere, you let them pass by and they disappear into nowhere. At least that is the way I deal with this. It helps to be good at what you're doing. If you have enough experience, it definitely helps. When you're starting out, when you're at the very beginning, it is probably a lot harder, but that's just the way it is. And that is probably true for anything you do. Anything that you need some skills for. But speaking of skills, today's video sponsor is Skillshare, an online learning community with thousands of classes on all kinds of different topics. Art, illustration, animation, photography, graphic design, you name it. But today specifically, I want to recommend you something that is genuinely useful for anyone who wants to get started drawing and painting and really build up the fundamental skills that you need to do maybe something like this here. And that is Gabriel Briquet's class, Learn to Draw, Daily Practices to Improve Your Drawing Skills. It's a super simple and helpful class on drawing fundamentals. It is packed with tips and tricks and little exercises that are perfect for everyone to improve a bit and to learn some essential basic skills that you need for this. If you want to check it out, use the link in my description. It comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee and a 7-day trial, so you can get started right away and try it out for yourself. And the first 500 to use the link in my description will get 20% off their first year of Skillshare. So thanks Skillshare for sponsoring this video. And let's get back to all the artist problems.
Whether you're a really experienced industry veteran with all the skills in the world or a complete beginner, a lot of the process or act of drawing is the same, where you're fiddling around, you're starting with a blank page and all that kind of stuff. And the only thing that changes slightly is, your confidence, and your proven track record and stuff.
Yeah. I think while doing the art, while drawing, I don't feel that much confidence.
Yeah.
I feel confidence after the fact from having done it many, many times, and that's nice. When I go home to see my family,
Yeah.
I know good work. You applied yourself and you did it.
Yeah.
I don't even know actually if I will look back on the art I did today and be really happy with it. I just know that good work. You applied yourself, and made yourself do it. So that's nice. But confidence is more like a feeling pride that you applied yourself and you were diligent about it. But while doing the artwork, it's pretty much non-stop doubt. Moments of oh, great. There's moments of it, moments of maybe not confidence, moments of this, fuck yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
But then again, by the way, that is very fleeting and is there for a moment and maybe not there the next day. I've drawn things that I was really happy when I finished them and I come back the next day and think, that is dog shit. What were you thinking? And then I've had the opposite where I was doing something that I hated non-stop the whole time I was drawing it. And then I saw it a year later and thought, oh, that's actually all right.
That's actually called the artist's roller coaster. Or that's what I like to call the artist roller coaster, where you have this constant up and down of emotions, like the highest high and then followed right away immediately by the lowest low, and that alternating all the time throughout one painting session, for example. And this is certainly something that is incredibly draining, incredibly annoying. Used to be for me crazy annoying. Even these days, doesn't happen that much, but when it happens, there is hardly anything that gets me so annoyed than this annoying roller coaster of emotions. And that's why I guess also he is constantly kind of making the point of not thinking too much, not overthinking, and trying to access the autopilot and get into the flow state and just let things unfold, let your experience do its thing, let your intuition go, I think.
Or other people have told me they love a certain thing. And I'm like, really? That's something I agonized over and I could never, carved and carved and carved at that piece, trying
sleepless
to make it work.
nights.
And then in the end, I was just like,
I've had sleepless nights. Yeah. There is not much that will cause me sleepless nights, but if I paint something and I'm not happy with it, that will do the trick, for sure.
How do you enjoy the work for itself? Because it has to be that. You have to enjoy the work. I think you have to also accept that sometimes it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Right? Which is a sucky idea. But then at that moment you might need to, if it really can't happen, you might need to go and do something else, at least for a while. It really is work. You've got to work through it. You've got to think that this must be, if it really does call to you inside and feel like it should be worth it, then it is just work. You've got to grind at it.
I have to say, I don't really agree with that point. I think it's important to say that you can do both. You can love something and enjoy doing it and be 100% passionate about it and still worry. Worry about whether or not it is worth pursuing, whether or not it is the right thing, whether or not it is sustainable. I don't think they are incompatible.
Coming from Caius and Queens of the Stone Age. Work ethic, if you're just going to turn up, because you've got to make yourself available. That's the muse thing again, right? The muse is just waiting. The magic is waiting to happen. Yeah. But if you don't make yourself available for it, it won't come.
Yeah.
And that's it. So you've got to make a decision. Am I doing this because I love it? And even if you're not enjoying it in that moment, you just apply yourself anyway.
Yeah.
And put it out there as well. I think that sharpens you. Most, if I was being super, super pure about it, I would say, like I said, when I finish my book, me and the universe are even. If no one ever saw it, that would suck. But I could deal with it because I got the value out of it.
Yeah.
No.
I would live with it. So you've got to have that. If you can make that happen, that you and
I
the
don't
work
know if I buy
are
that.
good. That you try.
It will make anyone depressed and frustrated, regardless of how much you love what you do.
It seems like your ability to cope with risk and not lose your identity when you when you have the successes, it's very easy to create art, but when you're not having successes, it's very difficult to create art. I think it's trying to deal with the two imposters, the one where you feel like you're a complete piece of garbage and should stop drawing, or the one where you feel like you're the best artist in the world, you know. And you like, everyone exists somewhere in the middle, and I think
Or they go backwards and forwards between those.
I'm more that.
Yeah, I think I am too, actually, a lot.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, no matter who you are, you're going to experience a huge amount of
super
failure,
interesting,
you know,
because
no
I
matter
don't really
how big
have
the
that.
projects you've done before or after or whatever, and your ability to open yourself up to the muse and that potential. That's the thing that I think lets projects get finished more so than anything. You know, kind of stepping outside yourself. And
As far as online, probably the Instagram. I think it's Greg_Broadmore. I don't even know. I'm bad at social media.
The drawing
That's probably
even
the thing.
better than I
don't
thought
have
it would
much on
be.
social media, to be on the internet.
Love it.
I used to do a blog years ago, but I haven't touched it in years and years. Never done an art station or anything like that. But yeah, you can follow me on Instagram. That would be nice.
yeah, cool. Very sick.
Yeah, follow him on Instagram.
Cool. Pause it there.
Yeah, go and follow Greg on Instagram. Great artist. I'm gonna check out more of his work because I want to see what the finished products look like. Yeah, super interesting. Very cool. I do believe the main point is probably something like effort mentality, not worrying too much, not overthinking too much, not constantly second guessing what you are doing, and kind of trusting the process, I guess. I think that is a big problem that artists have. I don't think it's nearly the biggest problem, to be honest, not even close. And I don't even think it's like a big problem for artists that start out, that don't have the necessary skills and experience, because when you don't have the necessary skills and experience, it's actually a good thing that you second guess yourself, that you always try to be reflective of what you are doing and trying to understand what works, what doesn't work. So being a bit more brainy when you do things. For people who are as experienced as Greg here is, or artists with years of experience, it's more of a problem because you have the experience, you just have to do your thing, and your brain can get sometimes in the way. So I think one of the two biggest problems that artists are facing today is that, like, fundamentally, we live in a world that doesn't really need or value art the way we used to. Art doesn't really serve religion, power, the collective meaning the way it used to. Other things have taken up that role in our society, also in many ways do a much better job at that. We as artists are kind of left to create meaning ourselves and also create demand ourselves in a world where fundamentally there is no real demand anymore, which is a huge problem because, as you can imagine, if you love doing something, or if you are good at doing something, or if you want to do something as a profession that nobody wants or nobody cares for, very simplified, big problem, no idea what to do about it. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. And then, on the other hand, there is the problem, which I've also talked about many, many times before, of the artist's ego. Also, I believe one of the major problems that we have today when it comes to making art, being artists, and not in the sense of arrogance, but in a sense of constantly needing to be seen, needing to be validated, needing to be exceptional, individual, leading to problems like here where you are constantly second guessing. I believe separating yourself from your art and also separating your self-worth from what you are doing is the best way to be a happy, fulfilled artist and to become the best version of yourself. There is no fundamental demand, or fundamentally it's not really needed. So nobody's looking, but everybody wants to be seen. Kind of a paradox. But yeah, let me know in the comments down below what you think the big problems are that artists are facing today. Or what the biggest problem is that artists are facing today, what you think about the imposter syndrome, the overthinking part. What do you think about my theory that the artist ego is one of the main problems that we are facing? And then also the fact that the world has changed and the demand has changed and is not what it used to be. And I'll see you on the next video.